of the things I observed was when this is before Confucius Plaza was built, it felt so unjust that you had so many skilled people. And I was thinking about my parents. My parents worked in garment, and my dad was a restaurant worker. He worked 6 days a week, and he was skilled. He could do carpentry, he could do a lot of electrical stuff. He was skilled, and he built his house in China. Yet he had no ability and no thought to even go into the construction trades. And then you look at what people are paid in the restaurant industry, and you look what people are paid in the construction trades. And so it seems like if you're going to build something in the center of Chinatown, the only building of its size and scale, even today, if you look at it, that's the only big building that's in Chinatown. Was it possible they're going to build this and not hire any local people at all, that Asian Americans, no Chinese, could work on this site and make a decent pay and somehow get into the industry? It just seemed impossible that you could have a big building like that with public money, some public assistance, and have no local labor brought in to help build that. And it was interesting when we were sort of having this dialogue. People said, "Well, gee, Asians don't know how to do this. They're not big." And then we went back and looked at history. Well, they built the railroads. So who built the railroads? No one protested that they were too small to build the railroads. Yet now you're saying that they're not skilled or able to go into the construction trades. And part of my experience from the thorough studies is we learned that in the Harlem community, for example, there were organizations like Fight Back that did the same kind of advocacy that we were looking to try to do in Chinatown. They were trying to get into construction trades. And the way they did it was to go shape what they call shape jobs. You go in there and you protest until jobs were opened up to people from the community. And here you have publicly funded projects where you don't have community input, community access into well-paying jobs. And very poor communities should have access to these kinds of jobs. So Chinatown became one of the places where we could have a right to say we should have jobs like this. This is not Midtown Manhattan. This is not downtown. This is Chinatown. And we can't have people from the community work on that site. Seemed really unjust.
There were just scattered projects because it was very difficult to focus our efforts on democratic rights. That was not part of most people's agenda at that time. So what happened was that here was this huge project going up without any Asian American representation at all. And it was very obvious. You just go there and look, and you would see that Asian Americans were shut out of a project that was being built right in their own backyards. And that's when people began the first leafleting around Confucius Plaza.
I think it was the first major construction project to try to revitalize Chinatown. And, for the community not to have, I think now I remember, it went, hand in hand with having more, say, police officers that came from the community. Because at that point, I remember the police force mainly were guys who lived in suburban areas like Long Island or Staten Island, out of the community. So the main struggle with organizers at that time was like, how do we have everyday people like the community, such as like law enforcement, the workers in the community? They should come from within instead of like from without.
The Confucius Plaza was a sort of, for me and also for I think many Chinese in the community, you could sense it back then, was this pride of standing up. And there was a lot of the patriotic thread among many of the immigrants that participated in Confucius Plaza, that it was a, sort of a, like, I guess in the African American movement, it's the Black Power. This was like Yellow Power or whatever thing. I think Confucius Plaza had that element on in a community wide. I mean, Confucius Plaza was, for the few weeks, or I actually can't remember how long it went, but it was a very major community effort. I remember there were hundreds of people picketing. Restaurants were donating food. There were garment shops that were closing down so the women could come out and picket. So it was a very, very community-wide effort. Yeah. So those, I mean, I think they were something that you hadn't seen before among Chinese Americans, Asian Americans in Asia. But it was a real breakthrough for the community in terms of standing up.
You are a yellow pearl. We are the yellow pearl. And we are half the world. And we are half the world. Now you might say I'm just a dreamer. Pearls like you just don't appear. I refuse to grant you schemer recognition that you're here. Now you can say just what you want, but my hurt has ceased. 'Cause I see signs of myself come drifting in from the east. And I am a yellow pearl.
Confucius Plaza was a tremendously exciting experience, and very successful. And I think it did have a huge influence on me that we could make change.
So here was this monumental project going up that was supposed to be in the interest of the Asian American community, but it systematically shut out any Asian Americans from any participation in the planning, in the working and organizing of Confucius Plaza. And so it resonated with the community. Before that time, there was no systematic effort to organize in this direction, other than through maybe CCBA. There were, again, some arts groups there. There was a small clinic, but not much was happening, really, especially grassroots organizing among the local people. So all of a sudden, when the leafleting began around Confucius Plaza, it struck a chord. People began to pick up the leaflets. People began to ask questions. And so from leafleting, we went to the first rallies. The first rallies in Confucius Plaza were very small, just a few of us with bullhorns and leaflets, telling the Chinese people that we were being shut out of this project, even though it's being built in our name, even though it's being built with our tax money, even though it's being built right in the center of the community. We were basically shut out of all planning, all decision making, and especially jobs at Confucius Plaza. So we went from leafleting to small rallies to a decision that we had to really make a dent in this, to a full-scale demonstration at Confucius Plaza. And we hit the front page of the Daily News. We also hit every single TV outlet, photographed the demonstration, and were caught totally off guard by the sheer size of the demonstration that we had organized. And so by that time, AFI became a permanent fixture of the community. We were a political force. We could mobilize people, and also we weren't amateurs, because some of us were veterans of the anti-war movement. We knew how to get permits. We knew how to get bullhorns. We knew how to do a press release. We knew how to do a press conference. So we could sort of like jumpstart the process rather than having to reinvent the wheel and learn from scratch how to do all these things.
This is important to the Asian American movement to me. It was like the identity process, and the main purpose is communication.
But the thing is, you need to figure out how to engage people so they can stay involved. Everybody has a life, they have a job, and they have to support their family, but you need to find a way to continue to engage people because the energy dissipates. But it doesn't mean that the problems go away and that there's no longer a need for change. And you kind of look at the last election and you can see the ability to galvanize people is impressive and important if you want change to occur.
We can decide to make the rule, or decide to play the fool. We can be the player or merely the pawn. By yourself, you are just by yourself. Together we can all take a stand. By yourself, you are just by yourself. Just look at my children walking hand in hand. Just look at them walking, look at my children walking